Okay, well, we are here with Cheryl. Cheryl's a patient of ours, and we've been with you for a while now.
Yes, that's right.
And why don't we start way back in the beginning and tell us what diagnosis you had, how that was treated, and then how we sort of came to meet.
All right. I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis in about 1990 or 91, and denial is powerful. I knew something was going on and had been going on. My mother had ulcerative colitis and actually died of it when I was a teen, but I put off, and so when I finally did go to a doctor, I got the diagnosis, and I was lucky in the first decade. I had a lot of remissions, and I was able to...
So for 10 years, you were treated for the ulcerative colitis with medicines?
Yeah,
or
Rowasa, and I can't remember the different things, but nothing really earth-shaking. I would have little bad spells, but they didn't last long, and they weren't that severe. Then things started getting worse and worse and worse, and once I started declining, it was just a path. My colonoscopies would show more and more and more area that were diseased.
Okay. So eventually you saw a surgeon about having your colon removed, isn't that right?
Right. And one thing I want to stress to your patients, and first let me say, if you're here, you're in a good place. I would take a bullet for Dr. Atala. He's a brilliant doctor, and he's a human being first. He's the most compassionate, real doctor-surgeon I've ever known. So you're in good hands.
Thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate that.
But I remember the first time, and I went through several different GIs, docs. The first time one mentioned surgery to me, I laughed because I thought he was kidding, because it didn't seem possible to me that a woman in my early 40s that I would give up my colon. It seemed so drastic. And that was a very powerful idea in my mind that I wouldn't want to do that. And so I went on Remicade before it was even approved for ulcerative colitis. A doctor I had then was able to get my insurer to cover it. And so many different things. I have other autoimmune diseases as well. So many things were wrong with me, and I kept getting sicker and sicker. And then I started on prednisone, the devil's heroin, because you're so sick, you're willing to take anything to feel better, but then there's hell to pay. And I will say this to you. Please don't get into the trap that I got into. If I had had surgery sooner, I would have had a better outcome, because I was so sick by the time that I did decide I would have my colon removed. My guts were sticky, mushy mess, and I had many, many complications. I went far away to a world-famous place that I didn't have a good experience at. Thank God I got closer to home, and Dr. Tala was assigned to see me, and that changed everything, because I was almost dead, and I wanted to die. But here I am today, and I want to say, can you tell that I have an ileostomy?
You can. You definitely can.
Can you see that I have an ileostomy?
You definitely
I never dreamed that I would be so fond of my sidekick. That's what I call it.
That's right, your
and
sidekick.
In the beginning, it takes some getting used to.
And let me just interject one thing, is that you just stood up. And I remember that when I first met you in the hospital, you had an ileostomy, and it wasn't functioning right, and you were pretty much paralyzed.
Yes. I couldn't even pull myself up with using my arms. My legs were this big around. My thighs were this big.
Right. And we restored your ileostomy function, got your electrolytes balanced, and now look at you. You gained weight and everything. You're off the TPN.
That's another thing about the steroids, Doc. I weighed twice what I weigh. I didn't have a neck anymore, so I looked bad. I felt bad. I lost the use of my thyroid. I became insulin-dependent diabetic, all from the steroids. And the thing is that I just didn't get it. I didn't get it that I would be cured. To live without pain, if you're like me and you've been living with IBD for years, you don't remember. You don't really remember what it's like to feel no pain, to not have that alien in there scraping and scraping, the embarrassment of... I've pooped myself so many places and so many times in my home, at work, and stinking up a bathroom in a public place that you're so humiliated. This is a much better life. The ileostomy, I never have leaking problems. It took a little bit of time for me to get it adjusted right, but your body learns how to do it, you learn how to do it, and you will be happy that you're not suffering anymore.
So bottom line is, if you have to end up with a stoma, in your case an ileostomy,
Right.
it's not the worst thing in the world.
Right.
In fact, it's better than living with
Oh
that
my
disease.
gosh, yes. And originally the plan was that I would get mine reversed. I had a pouch built, but because I had so many complications, and a big part of that was because I was so sick, I ended up losing my stomach too. So I won't be able to have it reversed. Many people do, and I'm telling you, it's not a problem. I have a childhood friend who developed Crohn's disease in college, and he ended up with colon cancer right around the same time I was going through this. And he has an ileostomy now, and he said, Cheryl, if I had known, I would have done this years ago. I feel so much better. I feel so much healthier now. Life is so much better.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cheryl, thank you for taking the time on video to discuss this.
Any of you who would like to speak to me, Dr. Atala has my permission to give you my name and number. I don't mind at all. It's a tough thing to go through, but you will be glad. You will be so glad to be done with the pain and the sickness.
Awesome. Thank you.